Hello, everyone. Today we're going to present about difference of each generation. The lives of the current generation are vastly different when compared to the previous generation. Things have drastically changed. The way things work in the past is not the same as they are now. The way we construct things differ from how the older generations do. In this presentation, we aim to provide information on the difference between the four generations. It includes baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. Okay, baby boomers. Baby boomer generation, or Gen B, is a person born during the year 1946 to 1964. The era of the end of World War II, the country was peaceful after the war. All survivors must rush to restore the country to strength again. But because of the loss of population from the war, people in this era therefore have the value that there are many heirs and descendants to increase the number of workers to help develop the country. Currently, Gen B people are people aged 60 and over. Their personality traits are serious, strictly on traditional deserts. Be the boss life is devoted to working high endurance, thrifty, which is often classified as conservatism. Baby boomers made up the first consumer generation. They grew up in the television age, watching mass media emerge from their living rooms, embracing sex-driven, racially integrated rock and roll, Elvis, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, all of it fueled by the world's first true mass audiences, but then they grew up. Next.
Okay, for my part is Gen X. Generation X is someone born during the year 1965 to 1979. For Gen X, people also know as a yippie or young urban professionals, meaning people born in the wealthy, enjoying life growing up with the development of video games, computer, hip hop style, music, and was the era in which the fertility rate was controlled because baby boomers value resulted into many children being born. The next problem is the issue of insufficient resources for the population. Nowadays, the Gen X generation is of working age from 40 years old and above. The behavior and character of this group are clearly like something simple, not formal. Having an idea of balancing work and family is to work according to duty, not workaholic, not be dedicated, can do everything alone, does not depend on anyone, is highly open-minded, creative. However, many Gen X tend to be antisocial, don't believe in religion, and do not adhere to traditions. They are also people who have the flexibility to adapt to changing cultures, such as the view that living before marriage, divorce is normal. The same is true for third gender, unlike the baby boomer who view them as unethical. Next.
Welcome to Generation Y. Generation Y is a group of people born during the 80s and the early 90s. The name is based on Generation X, which is the peer group that came before them. Generation Y people may known as Echo Boomers because they are the children of baby boomers or someone who were born during the period of increased birth rate. The occur the birth rate that occurred between 1946 and 1964. The Generation Y cohort is also referred to as millennials, the internet generation, iGen, or the next generation. Overall, this generation of people prefer to communicate through email and text messages rather than actual face-to-face contact. Learning for them is more than just traditional brick and mortar college campus. They also have access to presentation via webinars and online classes because children born during this period have always had constant access to modern technology such as computers, laptops, and cell phones. In their youth, their employment and social life are constantly defined by or required to incorporate update form of such type of electronics.
Okay, so on this page is Gen Z. So basically Gen Z refers to a people who born between 1995 until 2010. The Z in the name it means Zoomer. As this is the first generation to know as assume the internet, most of those who are part of Gen Z are the children of Generation X. Some other names for this generation would be the generation that digital native, internet generation, centennial. Why it is hard to generalize an entire generation, Gen Z tend to live slower than previous generation and be more risk averse. And they tend to be more concerned with the futures and better at delaying gratification than previous generation. But however, in this generation is also associated with having the highest rate of mental illness and intellectual disability when compared to previous generation. Despite of misconception that this generation was technology obsessed, the rate of popularity of reading was higher among this generation than in the last 3 generations. And that's it from Gen Z. And this page it's about generational diversity, in the workplace. So the general diversity in the workplace is growing right now from seasonal baby boomer with years of experience to fresh face generation who why the Z who are constantly connected to the workforce is becoming increasing vary in terms of age. So today, company often employ people from up to 4 different generations. And it's no surprise that each generation has a unique style, a different needs, different goals and trait for employer to consider. Why managing such a age diverse for workforce is certainly not without its challenges. And there are many benefits to employing a team that span multiple generations. So, by 2025, 99% of US workforce will comprise baby boomer, Generation X, millennials, and Generation Z. First, let's take a minute to learn about the 4th Generation P and their characteristic in the workforce, as I talked about earlier. What is the problem stem from generational diversity in the workplace? Because each generation has such a unique characteristic. The things that will likely not always be smooth sailing when the age gap that's appear. And as an employer, it can be very, very challenging to manage the expectation of multi-generational employee. And each one has completely different expectation and priorities. Yes.
And to conclude, we have come up with on how to break the gap to build an understanding of each gen. When I understand how people in each era have values in life, can cross the difference to come together easily with 3 steps. One is to understand the difference and admit that people are not molded in the same way. People with different beliefs or attitudes toward life than ours. He's not always a bad person. To appreciate the good points instead of resisting. Let us try to look for the strengths of the people in each group to find. 3, lastly, manage differences, change the way we communicate to reach each group of people we work with. Thank you for listening.
Okay.